Okay, Gain Seekers, here we are for another client cast, and this time with none other than Gain Seekers Andrea, who's just come off really an incredible contest season, her best contest season yet. And I know so many people are so curious and interested in this journey because it has been an amazing journey. And it's very rare that you'll see somebody like turn their competitive career around so much. So I can't wait to dig into it and get into what we've done. So first, Andre, I want to welcome you on to the client cast. I've been looking
Thank
really
you
forward
for
to
having
doing
me.
this.
That's all right. It's quite
And I want to
exciting.
start off with, sorry, just want to start off by saying that you know, when you now it's been like just a couple of weeks pretty much for you to absorb what's gone. I mean, how are you feeling coming out of that season has actually been your best season yet? How does it feel?
It still doesn't feel real.
It
Still
is
doesn't
surreal.
feel real. No, it doesn't feel real at all. It's I think it's been such a whirlwind
Yeah.
because we've done show after show after show, which I know when I've done it previously, I know my body can work well like that because I know each show kind of spurs me on for the next show and then it spurs me on for the next show. So I
Yeah.
know my body can take it. And the way I see it is if my body's already in shape, then why not? I don't see some people will prep for 18 weeks, 12 weeks, whichever works for them. And they'll do the one show and then that's it. And I just think, why? Do you know what I mean? You've spent so much time getting
Yeah.
your body into such great condition that why just stop after the one show? But then I know some people mentally can't take it,
Oh,
that they've
absolutely.
peak and they can't push forward any further. Um, so I knew when I sat down and looked at the calendar that I'd worked out what shows were when and how far apart and what we could do. And then I remember sitting down with you and having a chat and going through them all, and he was like, "Fucking hell."
Yeah.
Um, and I knew that once we'd got that goal in place, it was going to be easy for me to roll forward. The main one for me was the first show because I know that was our, we knew it was going to be tight, didn't we, to do that because it was
Completely.
only 14 weeks. So right from the get-go, from the first show, the result was unexpected. And then I know what I wanted out of each show,
Yeah.
but and that's what I've always wanted when I've gone into a comp, but we never kind of got to that level. Um, so even from the get-go, from that very first show, we took the win on that, and then we took the overall. And then the next show we went in, which was our hardest because that was when we had to make a weight.
Yeah.
So we won that one, we took the overall. Then we had the Nab of Britain where we come in second. Then we had got to get this right. Then the next day we jumped in on the show very quickly, didn't we? That week,
Yeah.
NFM UK, which we won the class on that, got awarded pro status, entered the pro show on the evening, won that, and then went on to win the overall.
Insane, really.
And then the following week, we did FitX on the Saturday. We won the class on that and came second in the overall. And then the next day we did PCA and we won that and we won the overall. So it's everything has been unexpected. It's what I wanted, but to
Yeah.
actually get that and for it to come to fruition, it's just been mind blowing. To be honest, absolutely mind blowing. So it just feels surreal.
It
It's
is surreal. It
bonkers.
is. To be honest with you, like coming off the back of so many contest wins, we haven't had a real chance to kind of process it and go through it. So for people watching this, I want you to know that my whole focus has been on obviously bringing Andrea in at her best to win these shows. And this is actually the first time since that show that I'm going to unpack things in such a way to kind of go right from the beginning to where we are now. So
We never
coming
unpacked
off
it,
something
did
like that,
we?
it's just a madness. It's a madness, really.
We never unpacked it, did we? Because after each show, it was like we sort of celebrated that night, and then it was straight off the get go, wasn't it? As soon as I'd finished that, I was like, right, what do we need to do for tomorrow?
Absolutely. This is the
Wasn't
thing. You don't get the chance to actually celebrate fully and to really like revel in that success because you have a championship mindset. And what people don't realize is that they see from the outside, okay, Andrea's won a show, that's amazing. They think you must be on cloud nine, you are, but you've got to almost kind of like stay so tunnel vision that, yeah, I've done that, but now I've got to focus on the next show and winning that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. And this is like really the first time that we get to speak about that journey.
But even after my last show, I said to you, was it the morning? Was it the morning after? And I checked in the morning after, where, right, I need my food plan.
Yeah.
I'm in the morning, I want my food plan.
So I'm going to pull up some pictures now, actually. And I don't know if you remember sending. Obviously, you will remember sending me this, but I hadn't looked at these pictures at all in a long time. And when I look at them, I'm actually dumbfounded myself. So I'm going to show you guys the first set of pictures that Andrea sent me when she first started with me, right? And I get these up. And I want you to bear in mind, this is close to the weight that Andrea competed at, that you competed at in stage just a couple of weeks ago, winning all these shows. Because sometimes a lot of people think that, hey, look, when you add muscle, which we're going to go into how we've done this and all that, but when you add muscle, you're going to go on stage heavier. It's not always the case. It's coming onto stage in better condition at the same weight is extra muscle. So I'm going to get these up, Andrea, and hopefully you're able to see them. It's actually quite insane, to be honest with you. So these are the first set of pictures that you sent me.
I think,
can you see that?
Was I 4 weeks post show?
That's exactly where you were.
Yeah, I was 4 weeks post show.
And you see here, so it's not like you were in bad condition, you're in good condition. There's no doubt about it, right? But now looking at your physique, especially from the rear, you can really see the improvements we made. I mean, your whole density of your physique obviously changed. So the biggest sort of player in this journey, right? Because this is a two-phase journey. So you have what actually created the change, and then you have the contest prep. The biggest player, and this is why I can't wait to get into this with you, because obviously I have a lot of women reaching out to me all the time, and they want to, build shape, right? Which basically building shape is another term for building muscle, right? But I don't like to use the word muscle because as soon as you say that to women, they think they're going to look Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is not the case, right? So basically, I knew that for you to be as successful as you wanted, because Andrea's a very driven person. Believe me, she made no bones about the fact that she wanted to compete and she wanted to do better than any season she's done. So we both knew that, look, you have to go for an off season. It's the only way, right? And it's uncomfortable for women, right? So let's delve into that. So going through that off season, you're getting softer, you're starting to lose definition, you're getting heavier. How did you find that whole process? Because it wasn't a short process. People think you don't bulk up for 6-8 weeks and make like dramatic change to your physique. We were doing that for almost a year, pretty much, right? If not more, just eating a lot of food. Yeah, 14 months of eating in a surplus, getting stronger over that whole time period. Again, like Andrea said, like 14 months, right? Being in a shape that she didn't really like, right? Getting softer. And lots of times saying to me, I don't think I've gained any muscle. I think I'm gaining fat here. I want to know personally for myself, right? How was that whole process for you? And obviously being unlike any other bulk that you've done before, pushing yourself further than you ever have.
I come from many years ago where I was fat.
Right.
So living abroad, eating bad foods and drinking all the time and whatnot. And so I got really fat. So when I moved back to the UK, this was when I was living abroad. So when I moved back to the UK, I kind of got back into the gym again and was training. But I mean, I don't think I've ever showed it you, have I? I think I'll have to find it out and send. I'll find it. I'll see if I can scroll through and find it on here. And so even when I'm probably not in a massive bulk, even towards the start, I see myself as that fat person, which I hated. I hated being that person. So we all know that comp prep messes with your head. And I
Big
mean,
time.
I'm not surprised where people end up with eating disorders and body dysmorphia. And I'm probably one of the worst for that with body dysmorphia massively. So when you then know that if you're going to make changes to your body, that
Yeah.
you have to bulk. So even though I'm bulking in the correct way,
Yeah.
my body will hold on to fat. Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not one of these people that can maintain a decent shape. It all goes on around my middle, and I end up with a great big tummy and a fat ass and whatnot. Uh, so to know that I've got to push up to that is hard anyway. When I'm then checking in every week and the scales are going up, that messes with my head. You go to put a pair of jeans on or something and you can't get them done up, you can't get them over your thighs. It's awful. And then coming to the end of my bulk last year,
Yeah.
me and Scott went away on holiday. So it was our first holiday together.
Oh my God.
And I went on holiday feeling like a beach whale.
Yeah. It's horrible,
Um,
really, isn't it? It's a lot to go through psychologically, isn't it?
so many people want to go on holiday. It's like, right, I want to lean up, I want to look good for when I'm on the beach. And I couldn't do that because I remember a conversation you and I had, and you wanted me to bulk for another 6 months, a
Yeah.
minimum month.
Adamant. Yeah.
And I went, I can't do it. One, my age. And I was like, no, I've got myself in my mindset that I'm competing at the first part of the season. But going on holiday and looking like that, and even looking at pictures, I think, oh my God. And I mean,
Yeah.
Scott, I hated every second and very body conscious. And especially when you're with someone as well, you kind of think, well, I'm not attractive anymore. And, or even, before when I've done it or I've been single and you just think, well, no one's going to like me looking like this. And it's an absolute prep is a complete head fuck. And then bulking is the
Yeah.
same. But it's a bit of a cliche saying, isn't it? It's a necessary evil.
It really is. It really
Uh,
is. And I think people lose sight of this because we live now more than ever in a sort of false Instagram society where it's
yeah.
like you think people are in shape all the time. And you are right. So many people, and there's nothing wrong with it, but so many people get so addicted to the look that they have during a prep, being lean, right, being in great shape, seeing lines and separation everywhere, right. And the biggest thing is that what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of women watching this will realize is that for guys it's very different, right? For women it's kind of like everything that is involved in a bulk just seems completely counterproductive to building a body. You're seeing the
Yeah.
scales go up, which no woman wants to see the scales go up. No woman wants to see her clothes size start to go up, right? And the
No.
worst thing about it is you're absolutely right, because I know when I've done every bulk that I've done, I felt fat. Oh my goodness, is that you on holiday? Is that you
No. That was when I was fat.
when you before you came back to England, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's so when you bulk up in your head, that's what you see, isn't
That's
it?
what I look like. And
Yeah, completely different human being.
even if I start feeling like I'm getting out of shape, whereas people
Yeah,
like other people say, "Oh God, you've got a great figure," that's what I see.
yeah,
So it's hard. So even, I mean, when I put the pictures together at the end of the book we did together to where we
yeah,
come, and I'd show people and they say, God, I don't remember you looking like that. But then you learn when you're a big girl, you hide it well and you
yes,
wear clothes that hide it. So you're not wearing, I'm not trying to squeeze into my size 8 jeans with a load of rolls hanging over. Do you know what I mean? It's like I dress for my size. So I've got one wardrobe for when I'm competing and I've got one wardrobe for when I'm bulking.
yeah.
So
It's
you've
crazy,
got
and
to have
it's
that.
so good to hear these things, really, because people have no clue. They think it's a walk in the park. They don't
Mm.
realize. I'm very transparent. I never bullshit to anyone. And I say to people that actually, Andrea would message me weekly telling me she's just getting fat, sending me pictures. Literally, I'll be on my just doing my WhatsApp, and I see Andrea come along, and I see, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any progress. And I'm like, nah, man, this is like part and parcel of this, what you're doing. But it does get like that, doesn't it? Because what people don't realize is that when it comes to how you look, unless you're very blessed and you're able to, some people are, they stay lean and they hold a certain shape, even off season. They look reminiscent of, some sort of shape. But you're very much like myself. Once you smooth over those lines that you lose, actually, you don't really look like you've got a shape, right? And that's a lot to take mentally because you're thinking to yourself, I'm just fucking going backwards. I'm just force feeding, and my weight's going up, and I'm just where's the muscle? That's how it feels, isn't it?
I mean, I remember so many times saying to you, I'm just looking like a Teletubby. I don't see where I'm making. And do you know what? The frustrating thing for me, and even Scott, is that I will say this to people all the time. You won't know what you've built until you strip it back off.
Absolutely.
I say it all the time. But how many times have I messaged you going, I don't see I'm making any progress. I don't think I've built any muscle. My legs are still the same measurements or this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And even now, when I look at like the days where, say before the show or something, and I'm looking at my check-in pictures thinking, well, I don't look any bigger. I don't look any bigger. And then
Yeah.
what have I got? 3 shows. I normally compete in the athletic class. And then I've had
Yeah.
3 shows that have bumped me up into trained. So
Yeah.
that's what they're seeing. And then I'm going, oh, well, actually, I must have put size on. I must have put muscle on because otherwise they wouldn't be moving me.
Completely. And I love
That's
as well that you touched on that point that you even because I've got a lot of clients who have took for their first ever bulk, right? So they're not competitive. These are people that have said to me, I want to put on muscle. And I said to them, well, the most effective way to do that, if you really want to move up in muscle, is you've got to have a big, long bulk. They're now like going through that bulk or at the start of the cut. And I say to them, it's a double-edged sword because I've been in that position exactly myself where I came to the end of my bulk and I honestly remember thinking to myself, all I've gained here is a pair of man tits and a belly. That's literally how I felt. And it wasn't until I actually cut and actually started, it wasn't even the beginning of the cut. It was like towards the end of the cut when the muscularity started coming through. Then I was like, shit, this actually has worked, right? But you're right that it's a lot of faith. You have to have a lot of faith because faith is the belief in the unseen, right? And that's what it is when you're bulking because you're right. If you go by the mirror, you will, and you even go by pictures, it actually looks like you're just gradually just getting in worse shape, right? But what people don't realize is they'll look at your pictures before and after. They're like, wow, amazing transformation. What they don't realize is we were absolutely systematic in our approach in the off season. It's not like I just said to Andrea, okay, just eat as many fucking calories as you want, right? Every increment in food was done at the proper timing. Every single week checking in, just like you would as adhere to a contest prep plan, right? Every meal counted out, accounted for, weighed out. Every training session planned to progress. So it is a real difficult thing because you are going on faith. I mean, when you're going through those sort of emotional roller coaster, I always tell people, especially women, right, who struggle with it hugely, is that you've got to kind of shift your focus because you're never going to like what you see. It's not like contest prep where you know you're going to look better every week, right? You're never going to like what you see. You're certainly not going to like how you force feeding is horrible, right? And then, like you say, putting on your trousers and you're feeling bloated, your stomach's bloated by the end of the day. I say to people that what you've got to do during that phase is become obsessed with the training. That is because that's where all the strength gains will be made. That is where the real true and is that what you were able to plug into? Did you find that? Because obviously you got a lot stronger, and people don't realize Andrea continuously is updating me with how she's training, the weight she's lifting, how each session's gone. How did you find that the training part? Did that get you through it?
um, the training part of it is kind of just normal for me.
Yeah,
So it's not as though I use the training to focus on getting me through it. It's just the training is second nature. So the training is that's what I have to do. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I go to the gym. I'm not there to mess about. I'm there to get my training done. I log every single workout. So I know that
Yes.
when it comes to, and I'm meticulous with it as well, so that I know that when I come to do that session again, then I know that I know what my weights are, and I know I've either got to, I either start on that same weight and then I increase, try and beat the reps, or if I know, if I look back and think, right, okay, I was getting 12, 15 reps and my rep range is 10 to 12, well, then I know I need to increase the weight from the get go. So, and then I'll
Bang
push it
on.
up. So, everything like that, whether the slightest increment, whether it be a 1.25 or whether it be an extra 2, 3 reps at the same weight, then that's what my focus is. So, it's not as though I'm focusing on, right, I've had this amount of food today that I've got to fuel that, because actually I train at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you're early
and
trainer.
I, and I sort of train fasted as well. So, and I know that it doesn't matter for me. My strength doesn't change whether I train at 5:30 in the morning or whether I train at 7 o'clock at night. If anything, I'm probably more tired at 7 o'clock at night because I've had a busy day at work.
Completely
So,
agree. I tell people
and
this all
even
the
though,
time.
yeah, and even though I've got a load of food in me, you'd think that would fuel my workout more, but mentally, it doesn't fuel me. So I'm get up, get the job done. So getting me through the bulk, I think that was just my mindset, and it's like, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. The training didn't really come into it, because the training, that's standard, that's my daily routine. All
Yeah.
I think when I'm in the gym is that I've got to beat that rep range, or I've got to beat that weight, or I've got to push that little bit harder somehow. And then I get frustrated, which I'll message you and just say, right, this seems to have gone backwards, which isn't actually very often, is it? To be fair, when I
Hardly.
do.
Hardly.
Um, but even in my prep, what was it? Was it 2 weeks out or something like that? 2 or 3 weeks out, and I
Yeah.
was getting PBs on my RDLs, or I was getting PBs on the Smith squat still. So it's like, and I think again, I'm probably just going off a little bit on this, that I get frustrated when I do see people in prep. This is just because it's my
Yeah.
mindset. Whereas they come to the prep and think, oh, I'm really tired and can't do it. And I just think, well, suck it up. Because
Completely
actually,
agree.
if your mindset is there and that's my training log and that's what it says, then I still know I've got to beat that, regardless whether I'm in prep or not. So
No, I agree with you completely. And I love that you brought that up, because I always tell people that if you go onto a diet, or and not even a diet, because what is a diet? Diet can be bulking, whatever, right? So if you're going into somewhere where you're on a fat loss phase or a contest prep or something like that, and you start telling yourself, oh, I'm going to get weaker. You start telling yourself, oh, it's going to be so hard. You start telling yourself things, you set yourself up for failure. That's what I
yeah,
love, is that you're clearly saying that, look, I track everything. And I know that in some capacity, and this is what I tell people all the time, does not have to just be weight on the bar, but in some capacity, whether it's an extra rep, whether it is extra weight on the bar, whether it's better control, right? You are going to improve that performance. And that is the sort of crux of
yeah,
what truly creates big progress. People don't realize that. They think to themselves, and I go on and on about it, that you must, if you really want to get the best development, and you're watching this podcast and you want to, looking to get the best development you can from your training. So whatever you're trying to do, whether it's trying to build your glutes up, whether it's trying to build bigger biceps, whatever you're trying to do, right? If you want that to happen, then you have to give your body a reason to change. The diet alone is not going to do it. I always say to people, guess what? A diet is not going to build you a great set of glutes. A diet is not going to fucking put 20-inch arms on you. What's going to do it is that diet plus the compounding effect of training hard, progressively overloading week in, week out. And I think one of the biggest things that was a contributor to your success in your prep, which we will go into obviously, was the fact that you don't relent from your training. So you keep that density, you keep that pop. Like, your body never looked tired, not once during the prep, right? And I think this is where, because people start to feel sorry for themselves, and they all like, oh, I've got to train lighter. Oh God, I'm low carb. I've got, so I'm doing cardio. It's like, if you, it's really is, if you're not up here on a subconscious level and consciously drilled in that I've got to go and perform in every workout, and don't give yourself room for excuse. you'll be blown away. And it's true what you're saying, because I experienced the same thing myself. The first few cuts I did, hard cuts I did, I actually did get a lot weaker. And I'll never forget, I was watching I think it was Jay Cutler. I was watching Jay Cutler, and he said that he doesn't even think about that. He goes to train hard. Does he even think? Does he? He never even thinks to get weaker or that he's going to get weak. And I noticed that just changing and reframing my mindset that I'm going into the gym to train hard. Let's not, because I haven't got the carbs in me, or because I haven't got, or because I'm doing an hour or two cardio, right? Let's still train hard. That's the whole point of going to the gym. And lo and behold, as I started to improve that technique, my muscles, my muscle density, right? My actual progress, I kept a lot more of my muscle when I come down. So you're spot on. You're spot on. And that's the thing about you, is that one thing people don't realize is that it's not just the fact of eating up. You don't just put muscle on because you're eating up. What happens when you eat up and you're not training hard? You get fucking fat. That's what happens, right? So you're utilizing that food, pushing yourself in that regard, and that had a massive impact on, because obviously coming out of this off season, you were like stronger across the board, like in every movement, every single movement that you're performing, you were significantly stronger.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and that is a huge part and parcel of actually gaining muscle. Even at the time, you might not be able to see it, but that's where you've got to plug into. I mean, I'll get some pictures up now of you at the end of your off season so people can see. And you will see here, like, you can see that you gained a lot of size for sure, but you wouldn't exactly look at this sort of physique and think, oh, do you know what? There's a championship physique under there. So I'll get these up now.
No, you wouldn't. I hate these.
Let's have a little look.
How many times in my check-ins did I just say, excuse me, did I say to you, after I'm just feeling like a right fat fuck? How many times?
So many times. I got that entry every other week. It really was. It was a case of that. I tell people all the time, I laugh about it. So I say to people, it wasn't like what you think. It was really, it wasn't that you were giving me grief at all. It was more like, you're just like, man, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? I'll never forget, you would literally cut out rare shots and be like, Afsa, I can't see what you're talking about. My legs aren't getting any better.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing, I suppose it was never, I never moaned about it. I was just giving you.
So you can see here, off season.
I know, that was just back from holiday. Well.
Absolutely. Just back from holiday. This is the start of Andrea's prep, and you can see we really, really, really messed up here. Really, we did, right?
Nah.
This is the beginning of your prep. So put us in the mindset here, you know, at this stage here, right? You're coming towards the off season. Honestly, because I never asked you this, because obviously as a coach, you are not you don't want to plug into negativity. Start your prep like that. What with your thoughts? Because obviously that's very different to how you started most preps the year previous. You know, you're at your heaviest, you're carrying a bit more body fat than you'd like to for sure, right? How did you feel?
Thank God I'm in prep. I couldn't wait to start prep. I was almost relieved that the bulk was over, because I just wanted my body back. And that was it. So there was there was never any doubt that my body would come in. There was never any doubt the fat would come off. I was just glad to not be force feeding anymore. And I knew that this was the start of a new journey. So it's like that phase was over, and I was glad that phase was over, because I was so uncomfortable and so unhappy with how I was looking. But again, I had to push that to the back of my mind, because it was like, I knew it had to be done. If I wanted to step on stage and look different, I had no choice but to do a bulk.
I love that you mentioned, I love that you say it. Honestly, I love that you say it. You just had two things there straight away, which I keep emphasizing to people. This is that, first of all, you said you were very uncomfortable, right? That is true. You're never, I tried to explain to people, you're never going to feel good if you're truly pushing a bulk to gain as much muscle as possible, right? Especially as a woman, because like I said, it goes against everything you've been, everything as a woman you've grown up, and then you associate with being in shape, right? It goes absolutely against the grain, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that you weren't happy, and people might think, oh, that's not great, but that's the truth. That is the truth. So I always say to people that sometimes in life, if you really want to do something, they're going to be part and parcel of that process. If you want maximum success, whether it's business, career, relationship, whatever you're trying to pursue, there are going to be parts of that journey where, guess what, you ain't going to be fucking happy. But how you feel doesn't matter. If you get the work done, then that's the key thing. So you're
Yeah.
right. You are at the end of a bulk. You were in an uncomfortable position. It's not exactly you're at your happiest. You're walking around just coming off a holiday, you know, with your partner, right? First time away together, and you're feeling fuck me, man. Just being away in probably the worst shape I could have possibly gone away in, right? Feeling like bloated. People don't realize they think, oh, eating a lot of food. It gets how quickly does eating a lot of food get boring and get tedious? I tell people all the time, never get jealous of when you see my bulk food, because when you have to eat that shit day in and day out, it actually becomes a job in itself. And you're sitting there and you're trying to just get that fucking food down, and you feel bloated, you fucking feel the water retention in your face. It's horrible.
I remember there's so many times I've come home from work and
Mm,
I've got to come back for a meal, and I'd sit in the kitchen and it's got to go, come on, you've got to eat. And I'd just be like, oh,
yeah,
do it again. And it'd be, my food would be on my plate and it'd be a couple of mouthfuls. And you're there and you just think, oh, I can't be bothered. I don't want to eat anymore. And then within 2 hours, I've got to have my bedtime meal.
yeah,
And I'm just like, I'm not hungry. So to
yeah,
have to eat, not very often I say that I'm not hungry, because normally it's like, oh, I'm hungry, what can I have to eat? Um, but to actually sit there and say, I'm not hungry, and you're looking at your food and you're just thinking, this is a
absolutely,
chore to get it down.
absolutely.
So it's hard in that sense. Um, I mean, even like Scott's, when he did his bulk and he's eating, he's going, I can't eat this. I'm going, come on, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to get it down here. So your off season is just as important as your comp season, because without the off season, your comp season isn't going to be as successful.
So again,
So
absolutely spot on.
yeah, so your off season is still a prep.
Yes. And if you want to be the best athlete you can be, or even if you're watching this and you're not an athlete and you're at a stage in your bodybuilding or whatever it is that you're trying to pursue, where you're actually trying to gain good amount of muscle, then you have to be just as meticulous with your food
Yeah,
as you are getting in, as you are, say, with when you're on a cut or on a contest prep. And that's the truth, is that one of the biggest things that I think is neglected today in bodybuilding on the like in competition that I see is people don't make the progress that they can do between season to season, because they're simply
can't
they
push the blue.
either they'll just either they'll just fill up a little bit, get fuller, right, eat a bit off plan, but not really push that how much size and strength they can gain. And secondly is that people, they don't realize that you have to have just as structured approach as you would during a contest prep. The only thing that's changes, I think, Dorian Yates. I mean, me growing up, I idolized Dorian Yates, Jay Cutler, these sort of guys. Used to watch all the Battle Olympia videos as a kid, right? And they say that these fuckers are still in the off season weighing out every piece of food, right? Making sure that they're systematically increasing the food, right? And I remember Jay sitting there, Jay Cutler was eating his food, and he kept saying the hardest part of bodybuilding is all this fucking eating. The hardest part of this bodybuilding is eating. It becomes the job. And for people who are watching this and you've never pushed your body in that way, believe me now, exactly as Andrea said, I've been there myself. You are literally just one spoon, eat that, two spoon, sip of water, get through your meal. Sometimes it can take half an hour. It's the off season's a real battle of the knife and fork, right? And then it's like you finish your meal and you're not even fucking hungry, and then another meal comes in. And this is not the odd day. This is day in, day out. In fact, I would say the only time that I actually felt good during bulks was when I trained. That's
Yeah.
the only time I felt good. The rest of the time, it's just like fucking more and more food just coming in.
Yeah. I think for from a woman's perspective,
Hmm.
we don't want to see the scales go up. So we have
Yeah.
issues seeing the scales rise. And also mentally, I know many people that can't cope when they start seeing the fat cover or the clothes aren't fitting. And as soon as they get to that point, they're back cutting again. So it's like you're not
Yes.
going to, as the saying goes, you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You've got to suck it up and you've just got to get your head down. You're doing it for a purpose. It's not forever. It's for a period of time. Um, and you just get the job done. I mean, even the girls at work, they're saying, "Oh, so can you eat what you want now?" Or like, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, no,
No.
I'm still on a plan." Or when I'm like in my off season, they're like, "Oh, what? Have you still got to weigh everything out?" And I'm going, "Yeah, still got to weigh it all out. Still got to make sure that my meals are all right." And I mean, they laugh. My food bag, I've got one of those what is it, prepped and packed bags, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've got all my meal, and it's full. I've got all my water in there, all my meals, everything else that I need, and it's rammed. And then I go into the staff room, and the girls are eating fish and chips, or they're having McDonald's delivered, or they're having, and they're going, "Can you have some?" I'm like, "Well, no, not really." And they're like, "Yeah, but you're not dieting." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but it's, I've got a cheat meal at the weekend, or I've got all
Yeah.
my food." And actually, when you are bulking and that, as much as it smells really nice, you're stuffed and you don't want it.
Yeah. You don't. Your desire for cheat meals go down. I used to, if anything, the only reason I would even have a cheat meal when I was bulking was because I thought, well, at least that'll be easier calories than my meal. Right? That's like there's no appeal. It's not like when you're in a contest prep and literally you want that flavor, you want that taste, you want it. When you're bulking, that whole appetite switches off. And
Mm.
you are so true. I think a lot of people, and I feel, and it really frustrates me for people. And at the same time, I feel bad for them because I always think exactly what you do. That if you, a lot of people, what they do, they dip their toe in the pond. They get a little bit, they start to get a bit softer. They start to lose some lines. They start to push the food. Scale starts to go. They're like, oh no! I'm going to diet back down again,
Yeah.
right? And they never actually get to add anything in terms of development and shape and muscle tissue and strength because the minute they start to feel uncomfortable, and this is applicable to any area of life, the minute they start to feel uncomfortable, they go straight back to what they feel comfortable with, which is being in shape. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are actually looking to take your physique to a new level of development, which is what Andrea did, not only did she want to do, but she actually did it. The proof is in the pudding, right?
Mm.
Then you have to be uncomfortable. You have to mentally and physically, both. That's why I reckon this is one of the hardest sports that there is, because you have to be so uncomfortable both physically and mentally, right? To push yourself through a bulk, and then to compound that from a female perspective, right, where it goes against the grain. No woman wants to be growing out of her clothes in that sort of way. Right? No
Well,
woman wants to be going up and up in the scales. No woman wants to be sitting there fucking force feeding, a full gut, and then it's like another meal. So you do that. Just we're going to get into even deeper in terms of your contest prep because this is what blew my mind about you. But that's where your mentality really triumphed because what people don't realize is you weren't happy, you were uncomfortable, you did complain, you didn't think you were gaining muscle, but did you actually fuck up on your diet? Did you not push yourself? Man, one thing you did is you ticked every single box every single day.
yeah.
It speaks volumes for the person that you are. So I had in my heart already when you started to prep, and obviously you said to me, "Look, I want to prep." I was so happy because I thought, you know what? I got nervous at many stages during the bulk because there's two versions of me. There's Afsa who gets it and is like a friend, and there's Afsa who's a coach. So, for example, I did feel bad for you going away with Scott on holiday in that shape. I'm not going to lie. I did understand that you might have wanted to cut. I did understand, but I'm like, well, look, man, you can't feel personal about this. You're a coach and
Mm.
you're trying to achieve a goal here. So you've got to push her. You've got to push her to that limit, right? Because at the end of the day, on the flip side of this, you'll be happy you did. So there's so many times during your bug where honestly I wanted to say to you, look, take a step back. Let's just, but you can't do it that way. So I was happy because I knew that when we started prep, like even though you had said so many times that you just thought you gained just pure body fat, that's what I want people to realize. Andrea wasn't saying to me, oh, do you know what? This has been a really successful off season. I absolutely can see that I'm going to come in and smash it. And I'm going to be in a complete different. Those were the discussions we had. The discussions
Yeah.
were more like, Afsa, I really don't see what you're seeing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just looking fatter. But I knew, because remember I kept saying to you, I kept saying to Andrea over and over, believe me now, I can, because I've looked at so many hundreds of bodies, and people who are watching this will know this. One thing, and one of the biggest reasons of having a coach is when you're pushing yourself like this, whether it's contest prep or a bulk, you lose sight of yourself in the mirror. So you need that pair of eyes that is going to be the voice of reason.
Yeah.
And I
100.
kept saying to you, you're more dense. Your density is there. I can just tell. I remember saying to you that Andrea, because Andrea would send me measurements and everything. She would come to me with proof that she hasn't gained muscle. And I was like, I'm telling you, just trust me. When you diet down, you'll see what I'm talking about.
But
So I
that
was
was
so
not
excited.
to, but that was not to like sending me measurements. That was me getting frustrated with my own body because I'm like, right, where's that extra inch on my quad? Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
train like an absolute beast, and where is it? Why is it not there? So that was not getting at you. That's getting at me, thinking, well, I should be growing more. I should be doing this. I should. So that's what I couldn't see. That's
yeah,
what, and I knew the maturity of the muscle was developing more. I
yeah,
knew the density of it, but I'm like, well, where's the width?
yeah.
Where's the width in it?
I'll
Where is
never
it?
forget that.
Mm.
I'll never forget that. Because when you messaged me like that, I was like, so I remember when you sent the pictures, and I'm like, I know for a fact she's not going to believe me when I say it. Because obviously, when I look at your pictures, I can see that you've gone softer. I can see that you're carrying body fat. It's hard to try and convince a person that don't worry, you are gaining the muscle. Because I can see also what the person's seeing. But yeah, we had so many back and forths like that. And I laugh about it now because I think it's hilarious because what was to come was that your lower body was the best that it's been, the most improvement that it's had, the best development it's had, which is just incredible. And so, so the whole off season to kind of wrap that phase up, so people watching to understand this is that it was a executed strategic plan, right? So it's not like Andrea had to relax. And, she's eating what she wants, has the crisps here, chocolates here, pizza. It wasn't like that at all. It was just as intense as a contest prep, but in a different way. Real focus on food, real focus on training. We bring the cardio down. There is still an element of cardio in there. Plus, you have a very active job. So it's not like we're taking a pause and a break. Then we switch it around to contest prep. And this is really, for me, where I got the opportunity to see what I deem to be, and I've worked with over 4,000 human beings now, one to one. So people don't realize. Because I work with such a large demographic of clients, not just in the bodybuilding community, I work with people from ages of 13 to 80. I've been fortunate enough to work with over 4,000 people one to one. So when I say this, I can't compliment you enough. Honestly, easily top 5 hardest work ethics I've ever witnessed
Oh,
because
thank
there's no off switch with you. Like
you.
literally, I can't explain to people. It's not like it was a holiday. The bulking was intense. It was full on. And then the next day, it's almost like you just change identity, right? Then it's like, I'm doing my cardio, I'm doing my new diet, I'm doing my new training plan. And now that's in the rearview mirror what happened there. Now we're focusing on prep. Now we're focusing on contests. When you came to me, I was dumbfounded. And at the same time, I was ecstatic because normally, and this is what I've been trying to tell people. So for people watching this who don't know or are interested to know, typically when you work with most of the bodybuilding world, right, it's not like other sports. So like, let's say you're working with a fighter and they'll have multiple fights per year, right? Or you're working, with a track athlete, or you're working with like footballers or whatever, where they're continuously practicing and doing games and all this. Most in the bodybuilding world would do 1 or 2 shows. Andrea, to my delight and also to my amazement, right? Because no one that I've worked with yet has been like, we're doing all these shows, right? And I want people to realize that's not a normal thing. And that's what I suggest. If you really want to get to understand your body, you really want to try different peaks, you really want to try to see like how your body fares up and get as much stage experience as much as possible. I say to people, treat it like an actual sport. Practice makes perfect, right? You get so much data. If you only have one show to nail, I can tell you as a coach that you're hinging a lot on very little, right? But when you have multiple shows to do, there you go. But I was just dazed when we had our first webcam meeting, and then you just reeled out this show. So I'm like back to back weeks, competing on both days of the weekend in different federations. You had
Yeah.
your targets set, right? I want to know this because I don't have this is my first contest season with you. Has that always been your approach, or was this one of the biggest amount of shows that you've done?
It's pretty much always been, I've always done that.
Yeah,
I think this is the most intense. Um, my last season, so 2021, there was only one weekend I did back-to-back shows. So I did the Fitex in Bournemouth on the Saturday, and then
yeah.
I did the PCA on the Sunday. And then they've always been sort of maybe a week to 2 weeks apart or something. But I've never done six. I
Six
think the
shows. So for people watching this, six shows,
yeah,
right?
I don't. I think that's been my most.
Mm.
I think before I've probably done four. I think it's been about four I've done on the bounce. So doing six. We were only meant to do five, weren't we? We jumped on that the NFM UK one very short notice because of it being local.
Yeah,
But yeah, six shows, and then the way it's worked out, we got four shows back to back again, haven't we? We've got three shows, three consecutive weekends in October,
yeah,
haven't we? And then
yeah.
2 weeks after that, we've got the final show. So we've got another four coming up. So that'll be 10 shows this year.
10 shows in 1 year. So if you're watching this, my advice to you is that I honestly, and I do advise it, is don't be scared to do multiple shows. You know, at the end of the day, you learn so much about your body. You get to trial different things. I can honestly, and we'll get into this, that each peak week is different. So you set these initially five shows, which will become six. You set these five shows out up, and really right from the get go, the tone of the contest prep was, and this is how it should be for every competitor. To be fair with you, is that you were aiming for nothing less than obviously your best, but you were aiming to improve on every single placing you'd ever had. So before this competitive season, in these federations, where were you placing? Like, where were you placing to give people a bit of insight into how much that off season did make a difference?
There was um, there's three federations. There was a new one that I did, which was more of a fitness one. So that those I had three. I entered three classes and won each three, and then I did the can't remember. Oh, what was it? The Barbarian Classic or something like that. I did. That was in 21, and I won two in that, and then I also won the Fitex Bournemouth show and came second in the overall. So I then the rest of them I've kind of had sort of seconds and thirds.
Yeah,
NABA I've competed with a couple of times. My highest placing with them was fourth. So I've done
yeah,
it. I did fourth place and a sixth place with NABA. Never made it to their British. IBFA, whereas I've come second and whatnot, I've not actually won a class, but I've had the invite to the British. So now with IBFA, I've had a third place placing at the British and a second place placing at the British. Fitex, I came. That was in 21. Fitex, so I won my class at Fitex, and then came. I think I came third at the British.
yeah.
when that was a stacked lineup, absolutely
Yeah.
stacked. I didn't even think I was going to make top 3 at all. So that was massive. PCA, I've competed with them three times before, never placed, never made top 3, never made top 4 up until 21, and I came second.
Mhm.
No, I came third. Second, I came second at the PCA Port Talbot, but I didn't do the British for that one. But then my other placings from even my very first show I ever did was with UK BFF and came second. But I didn't get the invite to the British. So here he is. Hello. So
It's a big man.
then I did another UK BFF qualifier and came second again. So my second show I came second to get the and got the invite to the British. Never placed at the British. Wasn't expecting to. Do you know what I mean? The standard was just phenomenal. And I think I sent you a picture, didn't I, of my very
Yeah.
first show from the rear and compared it. And that was my very first show, the UK BFF show. So I've been, apart from with NABA and PCA, every other Fed I've competed with, I've at least made top 6, but I've got a lot of seconds and thirds.
Yeah.
So only really with FitX, the Barbarian Classic, and can't remember what it was called. It was a new federation. Trophies are in the window. I'd have to go and have a look. And I entered 3 classes and I won all 3. But it was more of like a fitness federation, really. But still won. But for the bigger shows, do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
so for me. It's like, right, I've had my seconds, I've had my thirds. I want to go in and I want to win. I've never gone into a show to make up numbers, and I never have done. But this year, for me, it was like, right, all guns out, and whatever it takes.
No, I got that feeling as well, to be honest with you.
I think I proved that as well when we did the NAC show, when I had to make that weight, didn't I?
Yeah, you really did. You really
Takes.
did. And like, for me, I knew it because you were so adamant from the beginning. I knew this was very personal for you, very personal. That you didn't want to get anything less than first. So I knew, okay. But at the same time, for me, I had great confidence because what people don't realize is not just a coach. So it doesn't matter how good a coach is. Doesn't matter how good my nutritional knowledge is, how good my ability to peak a person is. It doesn't matter about these things because it's teamwork. And you have to have the right teammate to be able to execute those plans properly. And like I say, Andre is able to flick a switch. And Andrea, I want you to give, because people don't realize, and one thing you didn't ever complain to me about your contest prep. That's one thing. You never complain. I don't know if behind the scenes you might have, but you never complain. Give people a realistic rundown, because what people don't realize is that you were eating very less food, very less food. It's mainly all protein. Give people a typical day during your prep and an insight into how that was from the morning till the night, the cardio, you're doing double sessions, you've got a very busy, active job. So people get a reality check of
So
what hard work is.
I would say the most brutal
Hmm.
would be the 200 grams. So I would be training at 5:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
doing an hour of cardio, getting back home, walking the dogs, getting ready for work all day. So if it was a long day, I'd finish work at 7, get home at 7 o'clock, do my other hours cardio, probably have an hour or something, and then I'd go to bed. And I was on, I think the worst was, meal 1 was 200 grams. You took a meal off me as well. You dropped me down to 4 meals. And I think it was 200 grams of egg whites, 200 mil of egg whites, then 200 grams of white fish, and you took the salad out and veg. So I
Yeah.
was literally eating prawns on its own or just cod on its own. Then 200 grams of white fish again. And then I think it was 200 mil of egg whites.
Yeah. That's brutal.
I think that was the most brutal. That was the one I struggled with the most. So I think that works out to under 500 calories.
Crazy. And you have days like this. People don't realize that when you're on a prep, we see all these little scientists coming out with their whiteboards. You're working out these calories and that calories, but it's very simple. We are not trying to get into good shape. We're trying to get into elite condition. And a lot of people don't realize that elite condition is a different ball game. You are pushing so hard, right? And you're literally, you're trying to take off all the fat that you have. And to give people a perspective, because a lot of people think a lot of people have no clue what actually is hard. So your cardio is pretty much non-stop. Andrea, when she's working in a prep with me, now she's checking in with me almost every single day, right? Every single day I'm reviewing her physique. There's no such thing as a cheat meal every Saturday. That doesn't exist, right? It'll be a refeed when I absolutely think her body needs it. And that is just based on not how she feels, that's based on what I'm seeing visually, right? And Andrea has, see, you're lucky and you're unlucky, right? You're lucky because your body, and not everybody's body can take this, Andrea's body, this, and again, this is why I say to you, yes, if you're just looking to lose weight, look at calories in versus calories out, all that sort of shit. But if you're trying to be a competitive athlete in the bodybuilding world, right, and you're trying to bring in the best shape possible, that a lot of these things go out the window because you have to account for how people's bodies respond. So I give you an example. Andrea's lucky and unlucky because I can push her body brutally hard, where I think like you're doing 20,000 plus steps a day, you're doing double sessions of cardio, you're training in the morning, you're eating no fucking carbohydrates, it's all protein, and your muscles don't lose any pop. They don't look withdrawn, they don't look stringy. Muscles still look full, they get actually harder. So for me, I know that I can push your body to the upper limit because for a lot of people, you'll start to see their body fade. I'm one of those people. If you push my body too hard with cardio and like low carbs, my body starts to just lose its shape, it starts to lose its pop, it starts to lose everything. So I have to keep myself fed up during a cut or a prep. And the thing is that with you, it's the opposite. You do get harder, it's a good thing. But then the bad thing is that you're the person that has to go through that. So you have to go through it. And the refeeds were far and few in between, right? You don't even have a cheat meal, right? And you're doing this for month upon month upon month on end. And this is what people don't realize is that there's a huge difference from losing body fat and being on a contest prep. It is a merciless campaign. We see it almost now like it's like a fashionable thing to do. And that's why so many fucking people come out of shape, right? It's because they don't realize that this is down to the wire. You are pushing hard because you're going on to stage against people who are pushing just as hard, right? And what people don't realize that when you get on stage, to the normal person, they're like, yeah, man, Andrea, you look amazing. The judges are not thinking that. The judges are they're actually looking to find fault in you, right? Yeah. They're actually looking to see, well, what's shit about this person, right? And how can we, and that's how they judge, pretty much. It's just like, let's break this person down and see what's bad about them.
They judge the person. The person that's going to win is the one that's got the least faults.
Exactly.
That's how they judge that.
You know, so you're pushing hard like this. Give us an insight into that mentality. Do you, like some people, you know, they say they go to a dark place. Some people it's just business. Some people it's just like motivation of being on stage. What gets you through those days? Is it just that's what I do? Are you visualizing yourself being on stage, thinking about that first place? Like what gets you through those hard days? Because they were hard, man. I know. I was giving you the routine and even thinking, fuck me, she's got a hard day ahead of her.
Sorry. I think what you just said, I think it's just business.
Yeah.
It's my choice. It's my choice to compete. Yeah. So if I've made that choice, so therefore I need to do what I'm told to do. Because what's the point in doing it, in wanting to compete, and then not doing what you're told? So it's like, right, this is the plan that I'm given. I've got to get the job done. So it's business. And I mean, there were times when if I've got a day at work where I'm working, say 10 till 7, for example, on a Friday I don't train on a Friday. So if I'm working till 7, 7:30 at night, I'd actually get up earlier and do 2 hours cardio in the morning, then go and walk the dogs, then get ready for work and go to work. So it meant that I didn't have to do that hours cardio when I got back because I was too tired. So I knew I'd be
Wow.
too tired. So I would use my energy that I've got in the morning to actually get that job done.
2 hours of cardio straight.
Yeah, end of. I'd take my laptop in
Mm.
and I'd watch so much shit on TV. I'd find things to Married at First Sight Australia was a great one to get me through. What else? I've been watching Schitt's Creek. I've been watching Yellowstone. So I would just get in there, head down, and just do it. I'd probably do an hour, come in, have a bit of a break, have a walk, like sit down for 5 minutes or something, get myself to go to the toilet, get back and get back on it again.
Bloody hell.
Even if it meant I would do an hour and a half, so I knew I'd only got half an hour to do when I got home.
Yeah.
It's just that's the job I've been given to do. So I'll get whichever way worked for me, where I
Yeah.
knew I could get it done, then that's what was done.
And I love it. I love to get insight. So I love for other people to get insight to it, to get the reality of what it takes to get into elite shape. And remember, when Andrea is doing this, it's not like for most people where it's like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to get to have a chicken and chips or a burger and chips or a fucking pizza on the weekend. There's no reward waiting for Andrea. It's just another day of fish and eggs. Right? You know what I mean? Even when I would refeed Andrea, if you saw the diet, it's not like it's a really sexy diet. It's just a little bit of good whole food
Oats and
carbohydrates.
rice. I used to be so
Yeah,
excited when you give me my oats.
it gets like that, doesn't it? It gets
I
like
love
oats
it.
becomes like a tree.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I've got rice today. Brilliant. I'm really excited about it. So
Yeah,
it
that's
was
how it
things like that.
gets.
Yeah,
You do.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or
you
changing
do.
when you change my egg whites and you give me a protein shake. Ah, it was those they become little treats. It sounds
They
really
really
silly,
do.
but a treat. So it was it's not, but I mean, just going back a little bit, even in my off season, you know me for a cheap meal. I
Mm.
don't fill up on pizza or burgers and stuff like that because I'd rather have steak or I'd
Yeah,
rather have like a grilled chicken kebab thing that they do really nice around here. So my cheat meals are never dirty cheat meals.
yeah,
So
yeah,
even I think the only time I've had a dirty cheat was I think we had after the first show, I'd kept seeing adverts on TV for Domino's, and it's like, oh, I really fancy it. I had about 2 slices and felt full and sick because it's just not as much as I love it. It just doesn't. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And then I had that the last shows on the Saturday we did a burger, didn't we? And I'm
yeah.
not a chip person, so I'll only have a few. So I had a burger, and it's like I've got to be in the mood to want something like that. Um, but even when you say like have an off meal plan, my off meal plan tends to be clean. So even if it
Basic.
was yeah, so even if you used to say like, have an off meal plan, I'd go, oh well, can I have like a chicken thigh wrap?
I know. I was so surprised. I thought, well, of course you bloody can have a chicken thigh wrap. That's not naughty at all. But
Yeah,
your
yeah.
discipline is incredible. Discipline is incredible, and that is how when you look at a journey like yours, and I will post pictures in a short while, right, of where you got to. That is where it is. So like, I'm watching Andrea's physique change every couple of days. She's checking in every day, right, and then we start to approach that first show. And I mean, how did you feel before that first show? I
I
can
was
ask
very,
you now because we didn't talk about these things in the prep because you don't want to ever drill into. I avoid going into any sort of negative situation or anything like that. So I don't know how you actually truly felt inside because
well,
I'm pushing you along, championing you.
I think you know me that I'm actually my own worst critic,
That you
um,
are.
very much so, and that's not me almost. not putting myself down, I don't mean it like that, but that's not me trying to fish for compliments. That's me saying, right, do you know what? This isn't right. This isn't right. I'm a realist. I'm very clear at what I can see in the mirror. Um, but when we were coming into the first show, because I know the first show, it only meant I was 14 weeks dieting, which would have been the
Yeah,
shortest time for me to have got on stage. So it was one of those that, right, do we do it? Don't we do it? And again, we held off entering into that for quite some time, didn't we?
yeah,
I
we
think
did.
on the last date to register, I think we did that. And it was like, right, let's go into this strategically. It doesn't sound, I'd contacted Val and she said it wasn't a very big show. I think if I'd have known that there was probably going to be like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 girls in the lineup in the class, I don't think I wouldn't have done it because I knew my body wasn't competitive enough to stand
Yeah.
up because I knew I wasn't at that point. But then when we spoke, we said, right, well, let's just do this in a strategic manner that we'll have a little play, we'll do a mild peak, we'll see how your body responds, see what it does. I wasn't in bad shape,
No,
but I
not by
wasn't,
not at all.
but I wasn't in peak shape for it. So, and also I'd been following other comps that had been going on, and I'd been um, seeing girls placings and thinking, well, I look better than that now.
Yeah,
And, I'm still, say, 2 weeks out. And it's like, well, I know I look harder than what she does right now. So it's like, right, let's go in. There's no pressure. We're going to take this as a warm-up show. We're going to see where we're at, and then we'll take it from there. So going in, I was very conscious, very, very conscious that I was still technically 4 weeks out from a show, from where I needed to be.
yeah,
Um, and we went into it, and Naba bumped me from athletic into trained figure. So that was the first show that moved me up. Um, and being completely transparent, it meant I was then the only one in the class.
yep.
So it was just me. So we took the win for that. But then I went up against the other girls then in the overall, and we then won the overall. So that was a big thing because that then
This is,
um,
I think,
this was
this is right.
yeah, that was
These
the
are the
first one.
shots, aren't
Yeah.
they? There you are.
Which I knew
And
I still needed to be tighter. I needed to be harder. I knew there was still fat that needed to come off.
yeah,
Um, I knew as well, looking at it, even though it was a successful day, I'll then go back and pick the pictures apart, which I
yeah,
still did on my last show as well, didn't I?
yeah.
Which will probably bring that up. But I knew it's like my posing. I knew I needed to tweak my posing more. I knew I needed to be side on. I knew I needed to be pushing my leg out more. And I knew, do you know what I mean? So all this kind of thing. It's like, yeah, okay, the physique, the physique was good, and it was still stage worthy, but I knew it wasn't what it needed to be.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Andrea's absolutely right. So we both, one thing is good to work with somebody who is a realist, because after 14 weeks of dieting, that is like, I knew that we're not going to be in peak shape, right? Because I'm not trying to rush you down either. I'm trying
But
to
not
go at a
that, but
rate.
that was bulk. That was coming down from my heaviest as
I
well.
know what
So
it is.
14 weeks,
Yeah,
only 14 weeks coming down from the heaviest I'd ever been. That was like a challenge in itself, really.
no,
And
absolutely
that
spot
was,
on. So that
and
I was so glad that when I was working with you, is that, look, here you are real. And I said to you that, look, what we'll do, we'll treat this as a warm-up show, get some data, get you on stage. I remember saying to you that I'm not even going to do anything hard peak week wise, because the end of the day is that I still need to pull fat off you, and I don't want to lose the week. Because when you do a peak week, for those of you watching who don't know what it is, a peak week is exactly what it says. You're trying to peak the person's body, right? So fat loss doesn't really come into it that week. right? But I didn't want to do that with Andrea. I said to Andrea, we still got fat to lose, so I want to minimize the peak, right? Just carry on like a normal week. I'm not going to put you on like load training and all this. It's just we're going to train hard through the week, do a little peak, and go on. Now, what I was happy about, because I knew that you weren't gonna go on stage at your best. You knew that. You knew we had to work to, but we thought, look, let's do this warm-up show. It's a local show. There's not too many people competing. It's a good way to start the season. To build up that, to dust off the cobwebs, build up that stage presence. Get your confidence, get on. And what I was happy about more than anything, because Andrea will always, even after the last show, winning all these shows and getting all these overalls, still will pick herself apart. And I've got nothing wrong with that, because I think that's a championship for champion, the mindset of a champion. What the best way to describe Andrea is that she's content but never complacent. Yes, grateful, happy to done what she's done, but at the same time, always looking how can I improve, which I think is a good thing, right? But what I liked was after that first show, just seeing all your friends and like the feedback from judges of people saying, "Oh man, you look so good, like the best you've looked," blah blah blah. And I remember thinking to myself, they ain't seen shit yet, because I knew that we still had body fat to drop. I knew that I could have pushed your peak week harder. So coming out of that show, do you think did it give you a boost in confidence, knowing that you were holding back on what you could really bring?
It did. It did and it didn't, because I don't want this to sound like I'm being ungrateful, because it's not at all. But for me personally, to take the win with being the only one in my class
Yeah.
didn't mean I beat someone.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I'd earned it enough. Do you know what I mean? But
Completely.
then when obviously I then stood on the stage for the overall, and stood against the other girls and then won the overall, then that felt like I'd achieved it, because that felt like I'd earned it more. So it was almost bittersweet, because it was like, and like you said, people were saying that proportion wise it's the best my physique's looked. Yes, I need to come in a little bit crispy. Yes, I need to like drop another couple of pounds and blah blah blah, which we knew that anyway.
Yeah.
But to have the results, and the feedback of people saying that the depth in your hamstrings from your side shots have come on, and glutes, blah blah blah. So that was really good. But I knew I needed to be better. So it was bittersweet. I'm being 100% blessed and grateful. And for me, NABA was, I'd never made it to the British with NABA ever. So the fact that the strategy we put in place, it worked.
Yeah.
I've got the invite to the British. I took home first place and I took home the overall. And it was the overall that meant more, because I was competing against the other girls.
No, 100% completely agree with you, because you want to be battle tested, right? That's what gives a person a true confidence. You're absolutely right. Like when you're going into a competition and you're competing against other than you win, especially in an overall. Overalls are so hard to get, especially I think with women, because it's so apples and oranges. But that first show, Duncan, and I will say to you now, because I haven't told Andrea a lot of these things, so I was really happy, because what made me happy was like it's not like I misled Andrea. I told her straight up that, look, we still got more fat to lose. So I'm not putting you on stage and expecting like this is going to be your best look ever. Be prepared for that. Yes, absolutely. I know that. Right. And then coming out of it, what I was happy about is because me and Andrea knew that we were treating this as a warm show. We both knew we had body fat to lose, but the feedback was so good of what I was seeing people post on your Facebook and Instagram, that it really gave me confidence, as even from a coaching perspective, that shit, like if they think this is good now, then I know what we can bring next. So we go into the next show, which in itself was an adventure. So do you want to explain what the next show, like what we had to do, like in terms of so this next show that we're going, we win this show, win the overall, you're in the NABA final, right? Now, yeah, the high of that, Andrea one thing I love about Andrea is she's neutral. It's just like, yeah, the high, but it's straight away the next day, okay, so what to do now, the next show. So the next show was what? I think it was only like 2 3 weeks later, wasn't it?
It was
4 weeks.
It
Four
was
weeks
4 weeks.
later.
That meant it took us to 18 weeks of dieting.
Yeah.
So the next show was the NAC show. Now they didn't have an
Yeah.
athletic class in that, so it meant I had to enter the trained one, the trained figure. So it was trained figure over 40s, over 35s. Now, for some reason, with the trained figure, with their trained figure class, they have a weight cap.
Yeah.
So not in their bikini classes, not in their physique classes, nothing like that. Only in the trained figure class, they have a weight cap. So it meant, so it was my height minus 100 and then 90% of that. So it meant we were looking to get down to like 59 kilo. So we had, what did we step on stage at with Naba? Was
I
it
believe
62?
I think it was heavier than that, wasn't it? 63 or something like that. I'm sure it was.
Hold on, it might be on my. So I've just switched bloody phone over, so I don't know if it'll log me in. Let's have a little look because I think. Oh no, it's going to take me too long. I don't know if it might have been about 63 kilo, you know.
I remember that because I remember thinking my whole thing to Andrea the whole way along, because we both couldn't believe that you'd have to weigh so less. And I get nervous, really nervous. Why I get nervous if when you're watching this is because I keep explaining to people weight loss and fat loss are not the same thing. When you chase weight loss, the physique typically will look worse. When you chase fat loss, the physique typically looks leaner, harder, better. So I was so nervous, but Andrea was absolutely adamant that we're going to fucking make that weight. So I had no option but to make that weight. And so this is, we do one show, we do incredibly well. We're getting ready for this next show, and it really was down to the wire, right? Because you have what you've got to realize is that coming out of a show, if you've never done a show before, you it's not much you can really do about it. Your body does have a bit of a rebound. So it's like you lose a couple of days to even a week coming out of a show, right? And this is, remember, Andrea's not going out and going crazy on her food, right? This is just the way the body works. Because when you deplete water, right, the body wants to replete. So you have to let it just go. It's like a pendulum, just balances, right? So you lose a week on that side, getting ready for the show, and you lose a week on the other side. So effectively, we had made really 3 weeks, and I say even less than that because I knew that for the second show, I'm going to have to take you through a peak week. And that was brutal because for people watching, and I won't give away all my secrets, but I didn't actually get Andrea ready for the last week like you would a typical, for a bodybuilding prep. It was actually a case of using what I learned in the fighting world to get weight off. And it worked perfectly. But we've basically done these hot baths that I'll leave it at that sort of thing. But Andrea, tell people how difficult that was. That was brutal. That was brutal.
What we had to do, again, we're not going to reveal too many secrets, but the process that we had to do, which began with the hot bath. So it was the bath as hot as I could have it with literally a ton of Epsom salts.
Yeah.
And I had to stay in there for 20 minutes to the point where my chest is pounding, my head is throbbing, I'm feeling sick. Horrendous. And then I had to get out of the bath and then do something else for another 20 minutes. And I felt so sick, and I had to have Scott with me the whole time because you have to be careful in case you pass out. He's in the background doing treatments.
I wondered what he was doing there.
He's got a client in for a treatment. Yeah. So Scott was with me to make sure that I didn't pass out or anything. And my words were, "That's the most horrific thing I've ever had to do in my life."
That was fucking brutal. It was brutal.
It's vile, absolutely vile. And then, and I had to do that another twice, didn't I? I had to do it 3 times that week. So I did it. Yeah, we did it. I think I did it twice in one day, didn't I? I did one in the morning, then one on the night.
Yeah.
And it was vile.
It
Absolutely.
was.
I was so vile to Scott. I'm lying there going, "Talk to me, say something, take my mind off it." He's going, "Well, what do you want me to say?" I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Just Talk, tell me a story. Tell me anything, just to take my mind off it and whatnot. And I'm like, oh, I'm dying. I don't like it. I don't like it. I want to get out. I want to get out. Um, yeah, it was nasty, to be honest.
It's intense because you have the what it is that you have the it's a double, it's like double whammy. So you have the fact that you are on a pre-contest diet, which fucks you already, right? Then you have the fact that you are depleting water. Then you have the fact, because I will tell you now, I didn't say this to you at the time because again, I never want to get any negative thoughts into a person's head. But usually when we have a fighter do it, they've got a team of men around them,
Oh,
right?
I know. Scott's
Because
already told me that.
yeah, they have
Scott's
a
already
whole team
told me. Yeah. He was
because
telling
it's
me
so
about
different.
Conor McGregor. I think he's got like about 4 or 5 people, something
Yeah.
like around that at the time. So yeah, I was aware of that after.
So we are literally pulling water out of the body. And for people watching this, it was it was not nail biting because we actually made the weight on the day. It wasn't like we made it early.
Literally,
Yeah.
and I had to. I was having to spend that week trying to
Yeah.
stretch my spine out, so that when I actually measured, I was slightly taller because it gave me a little bit of extra weight.
Yes. So we really, really pulled that out of the bag because it was. I honestly said to Andrea the whole way through, and even she was like, "That's I know, but we're going to do the show anyway, right?" I said that it's like it's almost like an impossible target to hit. How can I get you in to weigh that much? But we managed to do it. And so if you can't if you've prepped before, right, and you're watching this, and if you haven't prepped before and you're watching this, let me give you an example. So typically what you'll do in a contest prep in the peak week is that you will drop water and carb the body up, right, to create a fuller, harder, dry look. Because of the fact that we literally made weight on the actual day of competing, I
You know,
never even had a chance to really carb Andrea up. So once you made weight, I mean, that was a killer. How was that? How did you find that show?
don't forget, I still did cardio in the morning.
Yeah,
I was still having to do cardio every day that week. I was on minimal calories, 600 calories, maybe 500, I think, at that point, just under. Um, and doing these salt baths. And on the morning of the show, I got up, weighed myself, and I still had to go and do cardio in the morning. So
yeah, I remember.
starving, so I'd had no food, no coffee. I was just wetting my mouth. Um, and then we just wanted to test out their scales first in case I needed to go and have a walk around the block to try and drop more. And they weighed me with my clothes on as well. So they'd measured me and I'd stood up as tall as I could. And I think I gave myself an extra centimetre and a half,
Bloody hell.
I think, on height, which, and then they took off whatever to allow for clothing. And I was literally on the dot.
Insane. When you told me that, I was just
On the dot.
elated because
And
the
the first
worst
thing
thing
I
you
said
want
to
to do.
you was feed me.
Yeah, that's the first thing we focused on was all right, let's start getting some food in. So you went, I believe at the calf, wasn't it? You went to a calf,
Oh yeah,
right?
we went into town and went and found somewhere and had it was 2 eggs, 2 pieces of bacon, 2 pieces of toast and some baked beans.
I bet that went like that,
I
right?
hoovered it. I hoovered it. It was like
Yeah,
it was there on my plate and then it was gone. And then we had, what did we do? I think it was 2 hours later. We had chicken and rice with almond butter
yeah,
and half a cookie.
yeah.
And was it a banana as well? I think possibly a
Yeah, I
banana.
believe it was. Because what it is,
Yeah.
we didn't so for people watching this, I didn't have much time to actually feed Andrea up, which is what you meant to do before the show, because I'm literally getting the weight off and doing cardio still on the day of the show. So she's not had the time to rest her legs. She's not had the time to rest up and to eat the carbohydrates. We're literally going in there and trying, and then you have the difficulty of I can't overfeed you because it's not just as easy. See, for a fighter, they don't give a shit how they look. So they'll replete, they'll have loads of Lucozade, right? I'll get them to have like crisps and all this sort of stuff. Because at the end of the day, they're not going on to flex their muscles, they're going to fight. They just want to get strong again, right? Whereas you now have the ordeal that you've got to maintain a very dry look. You cannot afford to have bloating in your stomach. So you can't, the body can only process so much food. But actually, we've done amazingly well. And how did you feel like that day? Talk people through the experience of, again, you come in, you have a victory.
Yeah, we I think we every time I'd eaten, I just tried to get off my feet as much because I'd done cardio all the way up. So it was like had my
Yeah,
food, rested a little bit, went and had a little walk around the block to get the food to digest, and then lay down and got my legs elevated. And then I think we did another meal. Although I think looking back, we said we could have probably done without that other meal, didn't we?
absolutely.
But went on stage, and there was another girl there, and she got a beautiful physique as well. And I was like, oh man. And the other girls that were there were lovely. And stepped on stage, and again, it's like, do you know what? This could be a first or second. I'm really not sure which way it was going to go. There was four of us on stage, and there was the one girl there, and I thought she looked beautiful. So I knew she was going to be my main competition. And then it come up that I'd won the class, so went into the overall. And that show is a show where I've competed a couple of times, and it's like, yeah, you know what I mean. I want that. I want that win. I
Yeah.
want that sword. And they called me out for the overall. So that was amazing. James Room, who put the promoter who put the show on, he goes over and above and beyond looking after his athletes. He gets so many sponsors. So every class had got something. When I won the class, obviously, and he does the most amazing trophies as well. So I've got this trophy and some flowers. And then when it comes to the overall winners, got the sword. There was from one of the sponsors, I got a 5 kilo tub of chicken. I've got 2 boxes of the Planet Donut donuts. I'd got a big tub from Fitbee, a bag from Fitbee supplements. So I'd got Trained by JP cream of rice.
There we are. Here.
Yeah, that's the sword. JP cream of rice, some EAAs, pre-workout, electrolytes, shakers. So a goodie bag worth probably about £150 worth of products or something in there. So he just had loads, and just come away. It was amazing to actually. I wanted it. Do you know what I mean? I wanted that so bad, and to get it, I was just absolutely over the moon. We were just buzzing, absolutely buzzing. So
I was so happy I could have cried. Honestly, I
well,
felt so emotional
no, I
because
was.
it was just so much. And it's like,
Oh,
you can
and
imagine because what people.
another
Sorry,
thing I got to add, they also had a weightlifting belt done from Mobility Tools.
yeah.
And because James Room does his, as in, the film 300, where they're all
Yeah.
Spartans. So that's
Yeah.
his sort of background that he does. So there's the picture of the Spartan on the back, and it's on the belt, and it's got "Prepare for Glory, overall winner" embroidered. So it's a proper weightlifting belt from Mobility Tool. So I actually, it's in the car. I should have got it out. And that came with it as well. So those were for the 2 overall winners. So it's like we've come with all this stuff and just bouncing. I just couldn't believe it. That was what I wanted. I'd gone for that, and I'd like just from what I'd put myself through that week, or sorry, what you've put me through that week. Let me get it right. To go through all that and go through some horrific experiences to get to that weight, it was like, do you know what, it paid off. We did it. We got there. That we knew that was going to be tight. We knew we'd got a lot to do to get that weight, and it was like that was my reward, and we got it. It was
Oh
perfect.
man, I was so happy, so happy. I honestly felt so emotional because people forget. So I'm taking Andrea through this. We're on my check-in weekend here anyway, where I've got hundreds of people checking in, right? And I'm going through this emotional roller coaster because, like Andrea said, the biggest normally when you peak a person for a contest, your biggest task is bringing the person on to stage at their best. That wasn't my focus. My focus was, and so was your focus. We got to make this fucking weight, and because we never made this weight, and we couldn't have made this weight early, it just literally was on the day of the show, right? And you're still doing cardio on the day of the show. Then you think to yourself, okay, we've made weight, great. Then you're like, I've got to go and fucking compete against 4 other girls, right? And I haven't had a chance to carb up, and I haven't had a chance to really give my body rest. So all these things are running through my mind, right? And then I'm thinking to myself, I can't, it's not as easy to just give you food or give you a cheat meal, but then you have to think about the stomach, right? You have to think about all these sort of things. And then when, you know, getting the messages from your partner, Scott, telling me, and I'm waiting there, bated breath, I'm in the overall, I'll never forget. I was in my conservatory at the time. And I just shouted out. I think the neighbors must have thought, what the fuck's going on with this guy? Right. But I just shouted out, I was so happy because for me, still, that remains the best win. And I'll tell you why, because it was against all odds. It was against all odds. Really, I wasn't comfortable doing that. I didn't want to do it. But at the end of the day, is that I don't ever back away from a challenge. Right. And if I've got somebody that I can go in a challenge with, aka yourself, a great teammate, then I'm going to give it everything I got. And that was an adventure in itself because it was totally different to any sort of peak week you've done. I typically I don't prep a bodybuilder like that, only fighters, right? And it's just like fucking hell to get the result we wanted as well. And not just win your class, but win the overall. Like that was put you on, I mean, that put you on such a big high. And what people don't realize is that even after that, after all that, you didn't really go and splurge on your diet. The focus was then contest for a year.
I went to Miller and Carter and had steak.
That was it. So we come out of that. Now you've got 2 back-to-back successful shows and the third show coming up. So where is your mindset? And talk us through the third show.
We had the next show and then it was 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
So the first show was the Nabba British. Then the day after that, on the Sunday, was the NFM UK for GBO.
Yeah.
So this was my first time making it to the Nabba British.
Yeah.
And this meant I won. There was no way I wasn't coming away with top 3.
Yeah.
It just wasn't in my head at all. I wanted to win. I wanted to win that so badly for it to be my first ever British title. And I kind of just refocused and reset and that was what I was going for. And I started psyching myself out, didn't I? Because I was looking at other athletes and I'm like, do you know what? She's got more muscle than me. She's got this. And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We need to focus on your physique, what your physique is going to do, how you're going to pose, blah, blah, blah. So that's what we did. So we went up there again. All I could do was just do my best. And we had a completely different peak week, didn't we? So we had the depletion. So we had high water all week, which is what we've done anyway. So we had high water all week. We had depletion. We started it Saturday, didn't we? The show was on the Saturday. So we started it on the Saturday so that we were up to 10 litres. So we were 10 litres every day. We started the depletion on Saturday. So we had Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Tuesday. Wednesday, you started putting some carbs in. Is that right? Was it Wednesday? Then Thursday. Yeah. And then Friday, you brought the carbs back a little bit.
Just to disturb right there, sorry about that. But just so people know, so please keep in mind the way that as it's unfolding, every peak week's different. And so the peak week we done for that second show, which was violent, that's a violent water deplete, right? I was so scared that because when you do such a harsh deplete, right, how the body's responds. So you have 2 week interlude between the show, but really the first week back is just kind of balancing out. Then, like you said, we go into this high water and we have a reverse of what we done. So where we had no carbs, right, for the second show, now we're getting the carbs in, and I start to take them down Friday because I feel that you're looking harder. And then yeah, carry on as you were. We're gonna go into that third show.
We were lucky then because I didn't have to register until 1:45, so it meant I could have the time at home. So I think we had, or what did we have? We had bacon, eggs, toast. I think
Yeah,
for breakfast we did the. Don't think we did chicken and rice. I think we just did chicken and almond butter. We weren't gonna because you put the carbs in. We wasn't actually going to feed up that much throughout that day.
yes,
So
that
it
was the key.
was, yeah. So we just did chicken with almond butter. We kept all the salt in. Um, oh, and that was it. And we were on alcohol. So we've
Yeah,
used
we're on the piss
alcohol,
up.
haven't we? Quite a lot. So yeah, I remember your message that day. You were saying, right, just have this meal and then sip on some more vodka, sip on some more red wine. And I remember the one message. I was in the car, and you went, just have a bit more vodka and wine. He went, you'll be a bit pissed on stage, but you'll be fine.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember you saying
just
that.
trying to dry you out.
Yeah, yeah. So we got there. Uh, and yeah, we did a little. We tried a slightly different trick, didn't we? With pumping up.
Yeah,
We did a different food concoction to pump up because I feel like sweets and that tend to bloat me, or it doesn't sit. I don't. It doesn't sit as well. So we put something else together, didn't we? And that worked really
yeah,
well. And then so got on stage on first call outs. Uh, and then unfortunately I came second.
yeah.
So
Which is
yeah, which is brilliant. It's the first time I've made it to the Never British. I've come in second, so I'm like absolutely chuffed to bits with that. The other girls that were on stage were so lovely. I remember looking at one of the girls thinking, God, she's going to be a threat.
yeah,
And weirdly, she came. I think she came last, which I don't think she should have done. To be honest, I think she should have placed higher. She got a beautiful physique. Um, and yeah, I came in second. Um, which is such a massive achievement for me because of
yeah.
getting to that point with NABA, because it was NABA has been one that I've been wanting to crack for such a long time. But then ultimately as well, it's like I wanted that win. So it's like, right,
Absolutely.
so I was like, right, we need to do better. And I think the words to you was tomorrow's redemption day.
Yeah, that was your words. And the thing about it is that, yes, you actually done fantastic. It's no small thing placing
Yeah.
second in the final like that, and your best placing yet. But the thing about it is that where you had the wins, right? You kind of like you're on this high and you want to ride that high. But it's interesting because we done that show, right? And happy, very happy with the result. At the end of the day, you can't turn your nose up at that result. But again, like how this story unfolds, it's kind of like no processing of emotion really, because it's like it's not like you finish a show. I've had shows where I finished them and then you go out for your cheat meal and all that. There's none of that. It's just like finish a show and then we've got a show the next day, right?
Yeah.
So talk us through that because the interesting thing is that, and this is what me and Andrea learned, is you absolutely actually contrary to what most people would believe when you're doing a show back to back, you tend to, for a lot of people, it's the opposite way. They tend to get worse the next day, right? You actually got better. So take us through the next day. So you finish this show, you literally go home, you get to bed, right, and then
Well,
you've got to get up. You,
the first thing was my instant thing to use voice note was right. What do I need to do? What do I need
yeah,
to eat? Do I need to drink as much? And it's like, right, I want you to have 200 ml of water. I want you to have this. I want you to have that. So I did that. I think I had chicken. I didn't have steak. I had chicken thighs in a wrap, didn't I?
yeah,
That was what I had. And then I had some wine again on the night, and then um, in the morning we got up. In the morning, got up, and I think we did the same, didn't we? We did bacon and eggs again.
Yeah, we done the same, and you got harder because
Yeah, we did the same
we
again.
kept
So
the.
then we went. So again, it's like after 20 minutes after I'd eaten food, I'd just be checking in with you, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And then it's like, at this time, I want you to have this meal, blah blah blah. So anyway, we got to the NFM UK show.
Yes.
And this had only been entered on the Wednesday before.
Crazy.
So it was the Wednesday of that week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So 4 days before. So it's like, right, okay, it's Wolverhampton. Let's go and jump in on it. So we did it. So the plan was I think really just to go and have some fun. But after Nabra, it's like, right, today's redemption day. I'm going to win this one. So we went in and won the class.
Yeah.
So I had the girls on stage were conditioned. Do you know what I mean? I was looking at the
Oh,
girls.
that was an intense class for sure.
I'll tell you what, the girls on stage, they brought their A game. They looked phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I think the conversation to you was with you, it's going to be apples and oranges, isn't it?
Yeah.
So gone on stage, no expectation. I know what I wanted, but I didn't know how it was going to go because I was looking at these girls thinking, these girls are competitive. So I won the class.
Yeah.
So then we're there on stage, they've done the medal, and then the lady on the microphone, one of the judges, has said, because you brought such an outstanding physique to the stage, we would like to offer you pro status. So GBO pro status. So that was just a surprise and a shock in itself. So that was
God.
that was number one, wasn't it? And that messaging you. So it's like, right, well, there's the pro show in the afternoon. Shall I do the pro show? And he was like, fuck yeah, why not? We're
Yeah.
there, we're away. So there was two of us in the pro show. And the girl, she was almost, that she's a beautiful girl. Almost she was taller than me. That Bridget Nielsen kind of look. She got that short blonde hair and
Yeah.
really like broad shoulders and whatnot. And I remember being backstage thinking, do you know what? There's two of us. I'm going to come first or second. It's no big deal. I'm just going to go out and have a laugh. And Scott said to me, because he looked and he went, she's good, and he said, and if she's going to win it, he went, make sure you make her work for it.
Yeah.
So went on stage full of smiles, just posed as hard as I could. And then when they come to call the results, so we stood there on the stage, and when I heard them call her name out as second place, I think there's a video and it looks like I'm swearing going. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just gobsmacked. It was surreal. It's like, hold on, this is the debut pro show, and I've just beat this girl, and this girl's physique is beautiful, and they've picked me. So, I didn't get it. So it meant then I went in for the overall. So I know at this point Scott was messaging you quite a lot, wasn't he? And you were just going absolutely berserk. So then went into the overall, and again the girls were gorgeous girls. You know what I mean? Great stage presence, great posing, great physiques. And then they called my name out as the winner for the overall, and I just looked straight at Scott in the crowd, and Scott's just jumping up and shouting, and I was just, what has just happened? What the hell has just happened? So
I
because
couldn't believe it. I just
I'm
could not believe it. It's like a movie. Like
so
Scott, it's like won the class, come a pro, won the pro show, won the pro overall. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I just couldn't even believe it.
but I was just it's like the day sort of started off here and it went to there and then to there and then to
Yeah.
there and to there, and it just kept elevating as the day went on. And so because of winning the overall in the pro show, it now means that I get to go to Texas to compete with GBO at the Atlas Pro Show, and that's flights and accommodation paid for as well. So and that's the 11th of November. So that's going to be our last show of the season. That's our pinnacle. So we had that one. So that coming away from that was, and again, I think because we were driving past it, we went to Miller and Carter again on the way back. So my steak, salad, and sweet potato. Do you know what I mean? I was more than happy with that. And I remember coming back, and Scott couldn't wait because I'll just read this for you because it's here. So that's just like,
oh my goodness, that is some belt.
That's the belt. It's so heavy.
It's incredible.
So Scott couldn't wait to get home and put his posing pants on and his wrestling mask and put the belt on and run around the garden. So that was the
as you do.
Yeah, as you do. So that was just a nice little finisher when we got back. It was hilarious, and just couldn't believe it. It's as though I had to keep pinching myself, as though, what the hell has just happened? What? I don't get it. And I mean, one of the lovely things was at the end, one of the judges come up to me and they'd said, I think they were talking to Scott first, and she'd said to me, one of the reasons why you won the overall is because the physique that you've got is exactly what the Americans look for. She said your physique will fit so beautifully over on the American stage, and that was just such a massive compliment.
Oh yeah.
And just so excited. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to Texas.
I was blown away, just so happy. So happy. I remember telling my family, telling my brothers, I said, you don't understand how happy I am, because I was exactly like you. And like at the end of the day, I never write any person off ever, but I was like, okay, you've got your pro card here with these with this organization and everything. It's harmless to do a pro shop. I was it, and I would and it would like, it does. This is not me like making you any less, but you're going against a pro, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you said, it's just to be on that stage directly,
Yeah.
because people take an off season between that, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't just do that, then you go in the fucking overall. I just
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I just like, you cannot write this sort of stuff. Do you know what I
It
mean?
was
You can't even write it.
it was
Like you said, we went into the day and the energy level, because remember, you guys have to remember, Scott, Andrea's partners, feeding me this information as it's going along. And like Andrea said, you start here, then you're here, then you're here. And by the end of the day, we're all just over there. Right?
we were all on a completely different level, weren't we? By the end of the show, we were all just there's no words to describe it. There just isn't. I mean,
there isn't.
Elated. It's just not. It's like I was bursting from the inside out with just so much joy and disbelief, and
Yeah.
to think we just did it on a bit of a whim. And the pro show, it was like, right, do you know what? We're here. Debut pro show. Let's just go and have a little bit of fun, and what will be will be. So
absolutely, that was the approach. That's exactly the approach. It was like, do you know what? You've been invited to compete in that. May as well do it. No matter what happens, we don't care, because it's just kind of like, it's just great to get a bit of experience on the pro stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you don't just walk away with the win. You walk away with the overall. And moments, what people got to realize, moments that you're going to be moments for the rest of your life that you'll never forget. Amazing moments. And then we're focusing on the following weekend, isn't it? For show 5 and show 6. This is like a roller coaster, doesn't stop.
So we had a little bit of a worry, didn't we? Because so again, so I had steak in that night. So we sort of celebrated, and I had a couple of drinks, and then Monday we were back on it. So Tuesday, was it Tuesday when I did my check-in? and
Yeah.
I knew what I looked like, and I knew my legs were looking soft. And I think, it might have been the Wednesday when I did the check-in. I think it was Wednesday, and then Scott did me a flush.
Yeah.
Scott did me a body flush. Now Scott's been, I think, one of the reasons why my muscles have managed to stay full was because I've been having weekly treatments.
Yeah.
So Scott,
I say to people that this helps more than they can imagine.
yeah, so I think that's definitely helped my physique, and to keep that pop rather than look depleted and wiry and stringy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so it's helped to drain the water out. It's helped to keep the muscle belly full. And when I checked in, I think it was on the Wednesday morning. I knew I was worried about how I was looking, thinking, do you know what, we've only got a couple of days here. And I think my body's fighting with the water a little bit because we've done so many depletions and doing the 2 shows. And then he did the flush, didn't I? Then I checked in with you again on the Thursday morning, and it was night and day.
Night and day difference. And I remember exactly the same because I was, you know, like Andrea says, we're realists. I know I'm not stupid that you bring in a person through 4 shows now, right? And also one of those shows having a horrifically hard depletion week, and then going to compete within 2 weeks of that show, back to back, right? Shows on Saturday and Sunday. And I remember thinking Wednesday, I remember thinking, for fuck's sake, I've seen this before in people, right? When their body just stops responding. And you can't predict it. Any coach that says to you is a liar because you can't predict how a person's body will respond. There comes a point, and it's always a nervous position for a coach, is that there comes a point, and it's not, for people watching this, you have to throw your science book away because it honestly is not just let's have less calories, let's do more cardio. There comes a point with a body, it does fight back because we're not talking about losing weight again. We're talking about peaking a body, right? So you want it ultra dry, ultra separated. This is so much more than a textbook can ever teach you, right? And I was nervous because you never want to turn around to a person and say, actually, probably want to miss this show because I know that you're not off that mentality, number one. I don't want the backlash of that. And number two, it's horrible because we've done so well and you don't want to do it. So when you checked in on the Thursday, I was over the moon. I was like, game on. So here we enter this weekend, and you had your gun aiming for first place again. And I'm like, man,
Carved
I
me
better
up.
deliver.
You didn't really carve me up that much
No,
either. You actually just trickled a few carbs in. I think, was it just oats? I think for
yeah,
breakfast, I think that was it. You didn't really feed me up that much because of obviously the body wanting to start to fight back and hold water. So we went into the Saturday to the FitX show.
yes,
So we went into that and we won the class again. So
incredible.
that was
Yeah,
just amazing. Um, and then went into the overall and just missed out on the overall and came in second place
yeah.
in the overall, which
So
again, brilliant. I wanted to beat my last one, so whereas I'd won when I did Bournemouth, I won the show and came second in the overall. So what my goal was to win my class again and actually win the overall this time. It wasn't meant to be. I came second. The girl that did win the overall, she was phenomenal, and actually she won the NFM UK bikini
yeah,
overall at that show. So she's got a cracking physique. So she won the overall on that, and fair play to her. But I came in second. So we came away from that. And that was when you said, right, let's go and have a burger. Let's try and put some dirty facts into you.
yeah,
We've got nothing to lose now. We were on the last show, and let's just see how your body works with going having something dirty to eat for the next
yeah,
day, which we did. Um, and the next day we had PCA. So again, PCA I've competed with a couple of times, and I've only ever my last placing. The last time I competed with him was the first time I'd ever placed. and I'd come in second. But on the Saturday night, we got home and Scott said, I need to get you on the table. He said, because your legs are looking tired. So he just did a very, very light flush through my legs,
Yeah.
which normally you wouldn't do that sort of the night before a show or on the day of a show. But if the body needs it, depending on how it's manipulated correctly in the right way, you can still do it the night before or even on the morning of a show. So Scott did that, tried to pull some more water out of my legs. So we went into PCA, and I think in the car again, I said to you, it's redemption day, didn't I?
Absolutely, you did. And I knew that this being the last show of our season, but I knew that this was a bit of a nemesis for you, and you really, really wanted this one. And like for people to give people an insight, so we have now 5 shows that we've done, and what you've got to realize is that I'm a reactive coach. So I don't go into I personally will not just set out a peak week. Like I base the person's peak week based on how their body's responding. So like Andrea says, is that on this last one that we done for these last 2 shows, I hadn't carved up hardly at all because my concern was that we've just started to drop water where you were waterlogged to Wednesday. If I start carving you up, your body could very violently swing the other way. So we go through that show in the FitX. I give you the burger of the night because I'm thinking, do you know what? You're very depleted. You're in a situation where you can't, it's very physiologically basically impossible for you to retain any water, right? We get up, we got the PCA to go ahead. And I was nervous myself because the PCA is a really, really, really difficult organization. And we're talking about doing it at the end of a season. And we're talking about when we can both openly raise our hands and admit your body now was in a tight position. Like there's no way I would have done a 7th show with you.
Yeah,
Put it that way.
yeah, yeah. So we went in. Obviously, I'd entered into in the athletic class because it's what I've always done, and so we got on stage. They brought us all on, did quarter turns, and then they come, and then there was myself and one of the other girls, and said, "You both need to go up into trained." So
Yeah.
it was then I think I messaged you and went, "I'm athletic, no more."
Yeah.
So again, that to me was like, okay, so my off season did work.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
not just works, it's right. Do you know what I mean? My off season did work. Um, and so, and I panicked because they were getting through it pretty quick, and I'd had a meal, hadn't I? And then I was like, oh my God, do you know what I mean? I only had my meal half an hour ago and I'm meant to be getting on stage. So I was really, really glad, actually, in a way that they did bump me up because it meant I ended up with an hour. Oh, no, I think it was.
Yes.
No, I think it was an hour and a half before it actually got on stage then. So I knew it meant the
Perfect,
food.
really.
Yeah, yeah. So then went on and against great girls again, and won the class. So first off, over the moon, chuffed to bits. It's like, Jesus, do you know what I mean? This is PCA, the best I've ever done with them. I've just won the class in a bigger
Yeah.
class, as in like from athletic into trained. And then waited for the overall. So then so yeah, that was 2 days, wasn't it, with FitX and that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is I've gone into the overall, and they've called me out as the winner of the overall.
How does that feel? How did that feel to end your season
I started crying on
with
stage.
double redemption weekend after weekend? 2 massive shows where you've won the class, you've won the overall, and everyone a bit different. So the big one from the weekend previous was going into a pro class that we'd never planned for, and then winning that in the overall. And the shocking one for the end of the season is being moved up a class, winning that, and then going on to win the overall. Like you can't write this shit.
No, it was. I started crying on stage.
Oh, I
I
love
just,
it.
honestly, it was so overwhelming because I always thought I didn't fit with PCA, that it would never be my time with PCA. And I honestly, hand on heart, went in to. Do you know what? I think it was third. I need to go and look at my trophy. I think it was third that I placed with PCA in 21, because I think I said to
Yeah.
you, my main goal is to be higher.
Yeah,
Is to come higher, didn't I? So it was either second or first place. But then I also said when I was there, it's like, Joe, this is my last show and I want that win.
you did.
I want
You
that
said to
sword.
me, after I won the overall, I won the overall.
Yeah.
And like, I know how hard the PCA is, and I know as well, right, the fact that we're dealing with the sixth show in a row, and the body is not going to be fresh. The body's not going to respond. When you won your class, I was super happy. But when you won the overall, I was just like, man, that is one for the books. That is one for the books. Like, that is how you fin. If you can write a story of how to finish a competitive season, you couldn't have written it any better, right? Like, that was just so incredible. And it's crazy because the amount of hardware that you've collected, the amount of different emotions you've been through, the amount of actual moments that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. You'll look back on these moments and remember these wins. It really was the icing to a perfect cake, really.
Special. The whole thing that every time my name got called for the overall, every time I held up that sword, every time I held that belt up, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That those moments will be locked away in my heart forever because it just meant so much, and it's true. Really, they say hard work does pay off, and you've got
Completely.
to, if if you want to be different, or if you want to succeed, and I think this with anything, it's like you've got to be prepared to push yourself to a place where you don't want to go, and you've got to push yourself into that where you're not in your comfort zone, um, and to stay with it and to stay on track. And as hard as it is, but it shows that if you do stick with it and you do put the work in and you do put the time in, that it does pay off. I mean, it's taken me 8 years.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush. From my very first show, I mean, I came from a powerlifting background, so that's where sort of my strength come from. So powerlifting comps, and then going into bodybuilding. So from what my physique was from when I first started to where my physique is now, it's 8 years. It's not
Yeah.
over.
8 years of work and graft.
Yeah,
And what
it
people
is.
don't realize is
No.
that even this contest prep that you've done, it's not the contest prep. It's the whole thing. It's the whole like nearly 2 years, including the off season.
Mm, mm,
Absolute focus, doing it for a reason, every meal for a purpose, every workout for a purpose, performing better week in, week out, pushing yourself in different ways. In the off season, you're pushing yourself in an uncomfortable way, going in a direction that you're not very happy about. In the
mm.
contest season, you're also uncomfortable, pushing yourself in a way that is incredibly difficult. Low calories, continuous work rate, no sort of like respite in terms of cheat meals or anything like that. And I couldn't agree with you more. I always say to people that you're not a human, you're having a human experience. And what I mean by that is that you have this body and you have this mind, right? And both of these things, I always look at it as that this is hardware and this is software. And the more stress you're able to handle, the more you're able to expose yourself to that, the more you're able to unlock what you can do physically, what you
Yeah,
can do mentally, right?
yeah,
And it's a lonely path, but do you know what? That doesn't actually ever put me off because I always think, why not walk the lonely path that most people won't walk? Because then you'll have an experience that most people never do.
yeah.
And that's really
It's
what you've done. Like your actual contest season you can't, if you writ a book about how a contest season went, it would seem unbelievable. But this is
yeah,
real life. And you've done
yeah.
it with real action. And it's been incredible. This whole podcast has been incredible. And this is just the first part of the year.
I
We've got a
know.
lot more ahead.
Well, I mean, the funny thing as well, though, is that we had the last show, the PCA. We'd already planned to have a meeting on Monday, so the day
Yep.
after. So I said to you on the Sunday, right, I need a plan ready for. I sent my check-in to you, didn't I? I said I want a food plan. I need to get back on it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have like I said, so we're a week post show. So I have, if I've wanted to have a nibble at some chocolate, if I've wanted to have some sweets, I've had it, right? I'm not gonna lie, it's like, hold on a minute, I've dieted down for like over 20 weeks. I'm not gonna beat myself up this week. So I've eaten my food, and if I've had the odd bit here and there, then I've had that. Um, but then it was straight away, wasn't it? The day after the show, we had a meeting. We went through all the dates for the next shows. We worked backwards to where the prep is going to start, what we're going to do. So all the plans were put in place the very next day.
Yeah, and I want people to
Things-
realize that I was dumbfounded myself because normally, you think after a show, please keep in mind that Andrea, honestly, I'm not just saying this, guys, because the way the contests have been, where she's had contests back to back, right? She's not had like where she's gone out and had a massive blowout post contest. So you would think after doing 6 shows, right, that it would be like, I'm gonna fucking eat what I want for a whole week, right, or 2 weeks. But literally, you said to me, you said, "After I can't function like that. I need to be checking in, and we need to sit down, and which we did, and we need to go through." So so for people watching this, we have already actually detailed, and I won't go into it now because I want to save that because I want to do a podcast at the end of the year with you after this next. But we've already detailed the attack that we're going to use, right? How the year is going to be broken up, what we've learned, what we're going to put into practice, what we're going to focus on, and that's the difference between, in my personal opinion, it is between the consummate professional and the amateur.
I think one of the things I said to you, I think on that next day, was that I think you were saying, how do you feel and everything? And I said, yeah, I'm over the moon. I said, but that physique isn't going to win me the next lot of titles.
Yeah, you did exactly what you said.
So we need to bring a stronger, harder, crisper, and leaner package
Yeah,
to the stage, because it's the physique that I brought to the stage for this half of the season has got me the titles and the wins that we've wanted, right? But then now going into, we've got the PCA British, we've got the Fitex British, we've got the Navi Universe, and then we've also got the Atlas in Texas. So those next 4 shows, we have to bring something completely different. We have to take
absolutely.
up to another level. Otherwise, there's no point. I'm not going there to make up numbers. I'm not going there.
Completely.
I'm going
And
into
I,
these shows, and it's
I as a
got to be
coach, I don't
best
want to bring you in. I don't want to bring you in the same. I want to bring you in a lot better. I want the judge to look at you and think, the
looking different.
fuck? Do you know what I mean? How has she made that much progress? And the worst thing about it is that as good as we both did on this contest, which I'm so grateful for, I'm so happy to have been able to share the opportunity and every moment with you, right? And Scott, right? But here's the reality is that me and you both know we've got room to improve. We're both on the same page there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to focus on. And I'll unveil that plan and that discussion in at the end of this year when we have another podcast post all these shows. But you're absolutely right. And that's the reality is that, and this is what I say to people is that, yes, when you're winning, right, it's an amazing feeling. But if you really want to go all the way in life, and that's in any arena, you mustn't ever be complacent. That doesn't mean that you're not grateful. It doesn't. Andrea has had these moments, and they are moments that are etched in her memories forever. These are moments that can never be taken away from you, right? And these are moments that you will reflect on and look at the pictures. But right now, we're all business, and the business is of improvement.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we
Yeah.
both know that we don't want to bring the same package. We want to bring a better package, and we know exactly where we need to improve.
Yeah. We do. We do.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
So I will say this before we finish this one off. Any final thoughts
Oh,
on what's
final thought.
transpired?
I think doing so many back to back, I think we've actually collected quite a bit of data, haven't we? We've worked
Yeah,
on things that actually work. A few little tricks up our sleeves. Maybe a slight change in a few things to take.
yeah,
Um, the fact that the flushes help it. I mean, the main thing as well is that when we go to Texas, Scott's obviously going to be coming with me. So it's like I know my body holds water on a flight. So Scott's going to be there doing like pre-show flush straight away, everything to get the water out. But I think we know where we've taken my body to so far. We've learned a lot over those last sort of 6 shows, and I think it's probably given us a good arsenal of tools to use coming into the next lot. And I think we're, when we go into the next prep, so we've got another 4 weeks of breathing space, of recovery time. And I know, do you know what? I know my body was ready for it because I had that invite, didn't I, to compete at a pro show in Italy, which would have
Yeah.
been this weekend. And as tempted as I was like, I can't do it. I
No.
knew my body had had enough. So I think now I've got the next 4 weeks to rest and recover. And then when we start again, we've got 12 weeks leading up to the first show the starting point for us is going to be completely different. So the end result has got to be completely different.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of, I'm, like I said, I'm truly grateful and blessed and so happy to have got this far with the team. There's too many in my life, right? There's Scott and there's you, and that's it. And you're the only other man that I speak to. And Scott's like, "Oh, you message Ashley." It's like, "Oh, right." And it's when he starts messaging you as well when we're at the shows. He's like, "Oh, right, I'm keeping Ashley updated." And obviously my dad looking down on me. But that's it. And to have the two of you by my side throughout this, it's kind of been an unstoppable force so far.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's
for
what
me,
I'm so grateful and blessed about. But I know how hard this has been and how hard I've had to push my body. But I also know now that I've got to push that little bit further. So I know I've got to push harder. So already I'm mentally preparing myself for the next lot.
absolutely. I mean, first of all, I'll finish off the podcast now by saying it's an absolute pleasure. It really has been a pleasure. Like even during the off season, when you were happily, readily updating me, telling me how you're not making progress, right? I, I enjoyed every moment of it, right? To be honest with you, I couldn't be happier with the way the whole contest season has gone. I feel like we've collected so much data. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be completely honest with you, sitting here right now, I'm actually raring to get going because I know that we're going to give your body a rest, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very happy already with how your body's reversing out of it. Very happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think and feel, and in my heart, I have like, there's not even 1% down, is that we will bring an outrageous condition because I know what I've done with you from an off season in 14 weeks. So I know that if I start with you in condition like you're going to be, fresh, what I can do with you in 12. And I cannot fucking wait. But as everything in life, timing is everything. And we just need to rest your body right now. Just enjoy the training, enjoy
Yeah.
eating a bit more food,
Yeah.
relax up, and then we can begin. So yeah, it's been a brilliant podcast. I've really enjoyed doing this.
And
It's been a pleasure working.
I've got to
And
say, you've been, as a coach, you've held my hand all the way through, even when the times when I've looked past for all the hand holding, do you know what I mean? It's like you've been there and it's like, right, okay, we could do this and we could do that. And it's like settling in mind, and especially when your head's shut as well. But as a coach, honestly, you're amazing. I just can never sing your praises enough throughout to anyone. And I just thank you for being on my side and for pushing me.
it's a pleasure, Andrea. Honestly, I get invested in the journeys.
One
Tell
thing
you.
I hate, there's one thing I hate you for. You can deplete me. You can put me on egg whites, right? You can kill me off that way. It's fucking salt baths.
You'll
Me and
never
you,
forget that.
me and you're going to fall out over that because I know it's going to be coming again. I know it is.
It will be, that's for sure. But
Yeah,
it's been a pleasure. I get so invested in the journeys, and I don't think people realize that it's almost like I live vicariously for you because people don't know I competed as a junior, as a natural, right?
yeah,
And I always used to wonder what it'd be like to win. I always used to wonder what it'd be like to have an overall. So when
mm,
clients go out and do it, it's hard to explain. The only way I can explain it to for people to realize is like, when you've got somebody that you really care about and then you want to see them do better than you ever have. That's how I feel when I'm working with a client because I know the work that Andrea puts in. I know how much the effort she puts in. I'm the fucking guy writing the diet, writing the supplement plan, writing the training plan. She's the person going out and doing it all. I understand what stress I'm putting her under, but there was just like there are so many times that Scott messaged me that I was choked up and emotional. Really, like I had bloody won. Do you know what I mean? It was an amazing journey, and it's halfway through. We got the rest of the year to focus on, and I cannot wait to be sitting here again and doing the podcast with you after that Texas show and updating people of what we've done. And I know for sure that because and why I know so much for sure, it's not just my ability as a coach, it's much more than that. It's I have the confidence in Andrea because I've worked through her with the season now, and I know how dedicated she is, and I know what I can do. So I feel like I've got a lot up my sleeve now because before we were trying to get into shape, we're in shape now. Like now it's about getting into I want to set an elite level of standard condition with you, and we will do that. So
yeah.
yeah, until our next podcast, Andrea, it's been amazing. Enjoy your next
Watch
month
this
because we're about to
space.
go hard.
Yeah, watch this space.
Watch this space.
We got
Absolutely.
lots of work to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got to, and we both look forward to it. I can't wait. Really, I can't wait. So
Yeah.
I'll leave you to it. Take
Thank
care
you
and
very
thank you ever
much.
so much. It's been an
All right.
incredible podcast. See ya.
Thank you. Mwah. See you later. Thanks, Afsa. Bye.